Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk about paragraph 3L2 of the California Residential Purchase Contract. Let me read that paragraph for you. This is an appraisal contingency. It's in reference to the appraisal contingency. And it says appraisal contingency based upon appraised value at a minimum of purchase price, or you check the box and you fill in a number that should be less than what the buyer's offer is going to be on page 1 of the purchase agreement. And so what this means that the buyer is willing to take a risk and buy the home even if the appraisal comes in less than the purchase agreement. But there's two different ways that this paragraph can actually go, because it uses the word "or" in there. It says that the buyer's going to buy it at the purchase price, or, and you fill in the blank, and that number would be at the appraised value price. So it could mean let's say the buyer's going to come in at $10,000 less than what their offer is. So if the buyer writes up an offer for $500,000, then the buyer tells you they're willing to pay $10,000 above appraised value. Since they're willing to pay $10,000 above appraised value, the buyer would put in paragraph 3L2 a number $10,000 less than the purchase price that the buyer offered. I'll say that again. The buyer puts in the purchase price, and then in 3L2, they'll put that number in $10,000 less than what the buyer is offering. And what they're doing is they're telling the seller, by putting it $10,000 less, is they're saying, even if my appraisal came in here, I'm still willing to buy it at a higher price of here. Or what the buyer can do in this paragraph is it uses the word "or" in this paragraph. And "or" means that they're going to buy it either here at the purchase price, or they're going to buy it either or here at the appraised price. Now, whenever there's a conflict and buyer and seller cannot come to some type of an agreement, then buyer and seller, they negotiate back and forth, whether it's between the agents verbally, which is really not the best way. It should be done on amendments while you're in escrow, which is really the best way. And what this should say is it might say something like this. It might say that buyer to buy home at appraised value per paragraph 3L2. And now in the contract, you would attach the appraisal that the buyer paid for to the amendment. And then on the amendment, you can go, "Please see attached amendment." And the listing agent may respond back to the buyer's agent and say, "Buyer to purchase property at purchase price buyer originally offered." And now that's when the conflict happens. Now buyer and seller go back and forth and try to figure out what the number is. Well, typically the buyer and seller, they meet somewhere in the middle. And the middle might be 50-50, could be 60-40, 70-30. Whatever you find yourself out somewhere where somebody's giving something, that's always the best way, the best case scenario. So now it's a win-win. I hope this makes sense, because I know this paragraph has caused a lot of confusion to a lot of agents, and they're going, why don't we even use this paragraph? Why don't we just go back to how we used to write it? We used to write it up, buyer to pay $10,000 above appraised value, not to exceed purchase price. That's exactly what paragraph 3L2 says. I'm available for any questions. Phone number is 209-345-9201. Again, 209-345-9201. Or you can email me, hsmattk@gmail.com. That's hsmattk@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Take care. Hope it makes sense.